Good morning and welcome to Rising. We have a great show for you today. I'm Amber Duke, joined by Niall Stanage.
Always a pleasure, Amber. A Friday treat. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
How's your holiday season so far?
Busy. I'm tired.
Oh, well.
But we're getting through it.
We will get through it. We'll have lots to talk about here today.
Yes, we will. All right, ahead on Rising, the Kennedy Center Board voting Thursday to change the name of the iconic Arts Center to include Mr. Trump.
Also, why the DNC says that it's scrapping the release of its 2024 election autopsy.
And today is the day. It's the deadline for the DOJ to release the Epstein files, along with more photos from House Democrats. We'll tell you all about it, but first, after a 5-day manhunt, police say the man they believe to be the gunman in last Sunday's deadly mass shooting at Brown University has been found dead.
Police say they found the body of Claudio Manuel Neves Valente Thursday evening inside a storage unit in Salem, New Hampshire, with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Police believe Valente was also behind the murder of an MIT professor soon after the Brown University shooting. Dr. Nuno Loureiro was found shot dead in his Boston area home on Tuesday morning. Here's what we know about Valente from law enforcement. He entered the US from Portugal on a student visa back in the year 2000. Prior to that, he's believed to have been a classmate of the late Dr. Loureiro while studying at a university in Lisbon, Portugal. And police say they do believe that the two men knew each other. When Valente entered the US, he was briefly enrolled at Brown for around about a semester. Police say he likely studied at the building where the shooting happened. However, there is no indication that he knew either of the students killed nor any of those injured in the shooting. In 2017, he had become a lawful permanent resident. One of the biggest breakthroughs in the case came from, of all places, Reddit, where law enforcement were directed toward a post that urged police to look into a grey Nissan with Florida plates that was spotted near the Brown campus. A day later, the author of that post apparently approached law enforcement and gave more information about a suspicious man he had seen in the bathroom of the academic building where the shooting took place, just 2 hours prior to the first gunshots.
Following Valente's death and identification, the Trump administration decided to pause the diversity lottery visa program under which they say Valente entered the United States. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem wrote in part on X, Valente entered the United States through the Diversity Lottery Immigrant Visa Program, DV1, in 2017 and was granted a green card. This heinous individual should never have been allowed in our country. At President Trump's direction, I am immediately directing USCIS to pause the DV1 program to ensure no more Americans are harmed by this disastrous program. And that seemed to have some support from conservatives online. Influencer Nick Sortor writing, "This was a lottery program that has let multiple terrorists into America, including the NYC ISIS truck ramming terrorist. Our entire immigration system needs to be scrapped and rebuilt at this point. Enough."
But Ed Krasenstein, firing back at some of the online chatter from conservatives, wrote in his own post, "Sorry to let you down, MAGA, but Claudio Manuel Neves Valente wasn't Muslim. He also didn't come into America under Biden. He also wasn't an illegal immigrant. He also wasn't transgender, but somehow MAGA still wants to blame Democrats because that's what they will always do." We can get into the politics in a second, but I mean, obviously, even though this man was found dead, I think there's relief that these crimes appear to have been solved for a start, right? There doesn't really seem to be any significant doubt that he was the person responsible for them. There had been some criticism of law enforcement because they had not appeared to be making much progress for several days, and there were people who were described as people of interest or a person of interest who proved to be entirely unrelated to this case. So now we know, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that criticism was entirely justified. The press conferences that were being given by the local police and the university officials were incredibly uninformative and seemingly unhelpful and really raised a lot of doubt of their ability to solve this case. In addition to this Reddit post, which this is a huge win for Reddit after...
You're a big Redditor yourself, right?
Well, after the Boston bombing, they actually falsely identified one of the suspects. They thought they had the guy and it was the wrong person. That person got a lot of harassment. So this is a little bit of a redemption arc for the Reddit detective class, I suppose. But there was also indication, reports late yesterday, that there were shell casings recovered at the scene that had either DNA evidence or fingerprints on them that they would hopefully be able to link to whichever suspect they eventually captured. But in the lead up to that, there weren't many breaks in the case. Police said that there weren't very many surveillance cameras. The Brown University president, 6 hours after the shooting, was grilled about her lack of knowledge about why the students were even in the classroom or what exactly happened. No one yet has been able to say what the guy shouted before he started shooting at the students. There were reports that the police apparently hadn't even interviewed all of the survivors of the shooting before yesterday. And so there was just a lot of really basic investigative tools that you would typically use that it seemed like the people in this case just completely rejected or maybe weren't experienced enough to use.
Yeah, just to circle back on a point that you mentioned about the previous Boston bombing and people being misidentified, there was in this instance as well, obviously we're not going to use the person's name, but online there was a lot of speculation about a student at Brown University who had pro-Palestinian views, and his name was put out there very widely, and he seems entirely unrelated and not remotely culpable for anything in all of this. Whether that person wants to take legal action or not will be interesting to watch, but I think it does point to the dangers of this sort of speculation just running untrammeled, naming specific individuals as potential culprits in events that they're completely innocent of.
Yeah, it was a completely irresponsible. The people who were insinuating, basically some page that he had on the Brown University website was removed, and people took that to mean that Brown was trying to get ahead of some announcement that he was involved in the shooting in some way, and there was no verification of that. And I think, unfortunately, this isn't entirely the fault of the local police and the Brown University officials, but I do think when investigators are giving so little information, and it's been 5 days, it does create the space for conspiracy theories to really thrive because people are so hungry to know what happened.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point. Briefly we'll get into the immigration element of this. I mean, he did come in firstly through a student visa and then latterly the diversity lottery program. So he's not an illegal immigrant and never was, to our knowledge, unless there was some interim period where he was out of status. People who receive green cards under the diversity program do go through vetting. In this case, now this is conjecture somewhat on my part, but I'm assuming there is some level of personal enmity with the MIT professor and this guy, who obviously knew each other. I'm not sure how you vet for that. Obviously, native, people born in the United States commit heinous crimes all the time, but you may have a different view on the immigration component of this, or not.
Oh, no, I don't necessarily disagree with the vetting. I think, I've been opposed to the diversity visa lottery for some time, not just because of this shooting, and it's primarily because I believe that the legal immigration system in the U.S. should be really focused on meritocracy, and the diversity visa lottery is diametrically opposed to that. And so I think this is sort of a convenient way for people to refocus the conversation on the DV1s, because this was a question during the first Trump administration as well, where people wanted to get rid of it. And I think it was some of the president's advisors, including his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who really pushed back on that and wanted to keep it. And it was a frustration of really hardline and immigration hawks on the right.
Mm-hmm. I think one can argue, I think the diversity program one way or another, I take you at your word that you want it as a meritocracy where the needs of the country are matched to would-be immigrants. I worry sometimes, and I can't remember who it was we quoted in the intro, saying, this proves that the immigration system has to be begun from scratch again. I wonder if those people actually want immigration at all, and that's why I wonder, do those impulses come from just an anti-immigrant blanket position, which obviously, for obvious reasons, I wouldn't agree with.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of elements of the right calling for an immigration moratorium, and the debate that's happening among conservatives is how long would that last and is it necessary? I think there's good arguments around it, but, obviously we don't have time to get into that today.
Sure, absolutely.
Next up on Rising, the Kennedy Center has been renamed to include President Trump. We'll tell you more next.